present a little bit about bioinformatics infrastructure that we have been set up in Bielefeld in particular, but also I touch German and even European activities, some of which, like Elixir, you're certainly aware of. And just as a caveat, this is not my special field. As you said, I'm doing comparative genomics, metagenomics, pangenomics nowadays, so genome scale, sequence analysis. This is where I'm really technically well informed. This infrastructure projects, they came because we need the infrastructure. Everybody needs the infrastructure, but there are not so many specialists that have long year experience in scientific infrastructure setups. So, and that's why we thought, and this was, and I will tell this story in my talk, we had enough reasons and also some, just to do a bottom-up exploration of the field. And it came to be the bioinformatics infrastructure of Germany. And Bielefeld, I will show you, was kind of the nucleus of that. And this little story I want to share with you. And hopefully we have enough time for discussion, how to develop this further, how to develop it broader, maybe on the international level, and so on, how the experiences are here and there. Maybe you share some experiences, maybe we have different experiences, all that. Okay, and here is, no, there we are. This is a little timeline, and I will essentially, this is only the overview slide of my talk. So I will talk first about something that happened in 1996, a long time ago in Bielefeld, where we started all this business to think about infrastructure and not only about algorithms and data, maybe separate items. Then we were, as I said, nucleus of this German network for bioinformatics infrastructure, which was a national initiative that then also became part of Elixir Germany, or is actually forming Elixir Germany, the German branch of Elixir. At some point, we had too many projects that were all a bit unconnected. Then we founded the Bielefeld Institute for Bioinformatics Infrastructure that I'm heading. So this was 5 years ago, where we could put things together a bit. And then there were some other national initiatives in Germany that we were also participating. One is National Research Data Infrastructure and a Data Competence Center. And I still up to now don't really know the difference between the two. And one, that's why maybe this is a bit higher, one really very prominent and interesting development is that this German network for bioinformatics infrastructure, which started as a national project but limited to 5 years, was then extended to 7 years, is now a permanent infrastructure. So this is also not so easy to get federal money into a permanent institute. So that's what we call it now. Well, DENBI stands for DENBI is for German Network for Bioinformatics Infrastructure. This thing, but it's now at a national research center. Forschungszentrum Jülich, that built a new branch at Bielefeld University in our university, and it's to be permanently funded and take care of these things. Okay, so this is the roadmap, and of course I'm not the person to do this. Actually, I was really a minor figure in this, and that I'm here is just happens because some of the people retired and others are not senior enough yet to take this over. So Andreas Strauss, Robert Gehrig, Alfred Pühler, these were 3 very prominent and wise people at Bielefeld University. Andreas died earlier this year, unfortunately. Robert retired a long time ago, but is still a little bit in the background. And Pühler is 83 years and still super active. That's amazing. And then there were people like Volker Meyer. Alexander Schürber, he is now the head of this permanent branch of the Jülich Research Center. Alex Gosman left Bielefeld at some point. Roland Wittler, Alexander Schönwood, Robert Heyer, they are still at Bielefeld in the faculty. So there and of course many more PhD students, master students, and so on that were participating by using the infrastructure or developing it further or telling us what is not optimal and how to improve it. So this is a multi-people project in Bielefeld. And of course, on the national scale and the European scale, there are thousands of more people. But these names just, I wanted to mention them because otherwise it would be pretty unfair. And wait, no, I'm not good at this. Yeah, I start with this Bielefeld Bioinformatics server. And here you read preservation of software tools. And this was in 1996. And in 1996 there was we had one of the first worldwide computer science for the natural sciences was the term. Why? Because bioinformatics didn't exist as a word. Yeah, so it started in 1989. People could study this computer science for the natural sciences, which was the predecessor, which was later renamed to bioinformatics. And there were several students doing master thesis, or at that time it was called diploma thesis in Germany, and they did their work, and they wrote some piece of software that was useful to analyze data and so on. And then it was somehow, maybe they wrote a paper, and then the internet was very young, and the software was on some computer and some whatever, C code, Java code, I don't know. And then it was there and then it was gone. Yeah, when the student left and went to industry or somewhere, the software was gone and nobody could use it. It was published, there was maybe a URL in the 90s, we had these things. But the URL was dead after 2 or 3 years, yeah, because nobody was maintaining it. And the idea of this was Robert Gierich, he said we need a permanent infrastructure to maintain software, software that came out of research projects. Yeah, and this was the birth of this bioinformatics server. So they bought a computer, they put it there, they connected it to the internet, and they were putting all the software there on some, in the beginning, very simple looking web pages, but you could find the things there. They had permanent staff. This was also a major effort to get permanent staff for such things, to maintain the software. And when the operating system was updated, you had to recompile the software and see if it still runs. And maybe some libraries were outdated, replaced by others, and then usually the software would crash or not, but the permanent staff would then be specialized and would then try out and figure out, either contact the original authors or try themselves to replace one library by another that would work and so on, and keep the software alive. And I will show you a picture of that in a minute. First, I have to share with you, I'm not sure this works. Oh, it should work, because of anyway, we have a wonderful video that you also find on YouTube or somewhere. But now nobody can hear it. Was first installed 1996. Not a good idea. I just showed the picture. This is our university, and we have it's only 2 minutes, so but we have great influence in the whole world because everybody uses our services. But it's true. I mean, it's not. I don't know if they show the numbers or they just say them, but and then now you see the clouds upcoming. So this is also the future. It's that all the computation is now being put in the clouds that we have started, and of course, okay, it's a typical advertisement video, and without the sound, it's maybe a bit less harmful. Anyway. This was not the main point. The main point here is that what I said, we wanted to provide persistent services, not only once publish and then it's gone, yeah, because these software, well, these services are quite interesting. So we bought our own computer. That was replaced later, of course, but we could always, until now, we could have it running and try to keep this on a somehow stable grounds. Oops, we don't need to see it again. Okay, and the organization of this server was essentially by some more traditional bioinformatics topics like alignment, evolutionary relationships, so phylogenetic tree construction, genome comparison, PCR primer design, which at that time was a magic. Now it's quite standard. RNA processing and other things. So of course, in the 90s, these were the classical bioinformatics tasks. Not yet workflows where everything is interconnected or omics data analysis in one big toolbox. We'll come to that later. And here's an example that I wish to share with you. This is a divide and conquer multiple alignment algorithm that somebody developed in 1996. Yeah, and well, it was some procedure, and there was this web page. I mean, this is today's look. It was more old-fashioned looking back then. You don't need to read anything; it's unreadable anyway. But you could. They have a section. I don't know. They have a web service version where you can just enter your data in a web form with some clicks, and then run this alignment program. Or you can download the code and then install it on your own computer. You have a manual, you have references, you have here's the submission form and some info page. So essentially, it's not that we always wanted to develop it further. It's more for preservation. But at least this thing from 1996, if you go to the reference page, you will see that this is my PhD thesis. Yeah? And the software is still running. And I have not done anything as an author. Yeah? I could be dead or I could be in industry or somewhere. Okay.
Yes. Disconnected. You can continue.
Okay. So I wrote this paper in, I guess, 1997, but the software was from 1996, and it's still there, and somebody is taking care of that. And if you want, I mean, nobody wants to use that old software. I don't use it at all, but if you want for comparison purpose or whatever, it is there. I don't need to take care. And then this is a great service to keep. I mean, like the literature people or math, they keep all the books in the libraries and so on. But the software, this is just a library for software. Yeah, and unfortunately, it didn't exist until 30 years ago, maybe. Yeah.
So not only you provide the software, but do you also allow to run the software?
Okay, this is the next step. Yes, okay. I mean this was we are allowed to run the software. That's we have this submission where you can. Oh no, but it's not live. But you can click on submission. You can enter your data, but it will it has some limits. So after the process will be killed after 1 hour or something. So it's only for test purposes you can run that. The web service, when you run this, the web service runs on your own computer. Mm-hmm. Then you can, as long as you want, and if you download, you can do what you want. So there's, I think in the beginning we didn't even put any copyright notice or anything. We just put the code on the web. Now there's some copyright on it, but I think we are quite generous with this because it's outdated in principle after a couple of years, but still you find it. Anyway, this was the beginning. I mean, this was just a historical note, more or less, how this all started. I have to be careful with the mute button. Okay, and the server at that time, that's another historical note. At that time, the BBServ, the Bielefeld Bioinformatics server, had two branches. It was the tools branch that we just saw, and also had an education branch. Because another problem at that time in the 90s was that you could not study bioinformatics at every other university. You could not study bioinformatics maybe at more than 5 places in the world, and Bielefeld was one of the first. So we had this online education branch where we had courses like this sequence analysis with distributed resources. I mean, 20 years later, people called this a MOOC, massive or not so massive open online course. Yeah, but we did this in the starting around 2000, where we also got a grant for that. We have a designer who was then helping to set up web pages and make everything accessible. Also, I mean, it was media designers, so to set this up in an electronic form with interactive question answer and so on. I mean, this was essentially stopped 10 years later, because by then, 2010, there were many of such programs, at least in Germany, but I think worldwide, they came up everywhere because there was this need was obvious for educating computer scientists to understand biological problems and analyze those data. So this branch was then cut away. Now we are only talking about tools. But I think at that time it was also an interesting and relevant endeavor. Okay, at some point, I mentioned that word already, we figured out that these individual tools, I mean, of course you can if you want to run to compute a phylogenetic tree from data, from sequence data, everyone knows one of the standard workflows is you take the sequences, you compute a multiple alignment, and then you take the multiple alignment, you compute maybe distances between the sequences, and then you take a tree reconstruction method, neighbor joining or something that takes the distances and creates a tree. So, but at some point people thought, why not put everything in one software? And this one software is essentially 3 algorithms connected one after the other, and that's what's called a workflow. Yeah, and so we started in 2003 to develop complete workflows and put them on the web, where we have different steps like data preprocessing, then you have the preprocessed data, then you have some algorithm that works on the data. I mean, this is for metabolomics, a workflow that we developed in LTB in 2008. Once you have the peaks in the mass spec analyzed, then you can do some pattern matching. Later you can compare the data with statistical methods or run data mining, and then you can add whatever kind of algorithms you want, and you click, and you have some branches maybe in your workflow, and then everything runs. You can upload your data, and then you do some selections, you press the start button, and then everything runs. And this was also done on the server in Bielefeld. So you could upload your data. It was a server, individual server for a single workflow, but we had a couple of them. You could get a login, you could upload your data, the data would be stored there in a safe environment. You could say, okay, do this kind of analysis, you add more data, and so on. So we were, from this single algorithm view, we went into the workflow view, and we had, so this is for genome annotation, this is for metabolomics, Emma is transcriptomics on DNA macroarrays, which are not so used anymore, but at that time was still active. Fusion is for multi-omics, to fuse different omics data into one pipeline and do the statistics on multi-omics data at once. Cube is for proteomics, and allocator, I don't remember. I think it's also. Oh, I don't remember. Actually, but we saw that these workflows are much more useful when you come to have real biologists as users. I mean, real biologists, I mean like PhD students in a molecular lab, biology, medicine, I don't know, and they analyze the data, they get they want to analyze the data, they get the data from the machines, sequencing machine, whatever, and then they are RNA sequencing, and then they want to find comparative transcription profiles. And for that we have a workflow which would, here would be MR2, for example. So this was quite necessary at that point because people were no longer willing to implement or to install all the algorithms individually and then do all this I/O, because we all know probably that the I/O part and data reformatting, data conversion, etc., takes a lot of time in practice. And although it's like scientifically it's pretty boring, but how much time we spend on that is amazing. And then a well-designed workflow where, like in a puzzle, the pieces fit neatly together. can save you a lot of time and work. Okay, this was the next step in the development at this bioinformatics server. And then at some point, and this was around 2015, Germany was ready to set up an infrastructure, maybe based on that, and this Alfred Kühler, the senior professor of 83 years old now, who was in molecular biology, he was a geneticist, but he said, okay, I'm retired, but I think to make my field, genetics, molecular biology, work well in the future, we need to do better bioinformatics, or we need to spread the word that this server kind of computational tools have to be provided in a standardized way. And he was doing a lot of politics then to get this network active, and was successful with that. And one big item here was, I mean, maybe for Portugal this is not so much the point, or also for Germany it was very important to have it on a federal basis and in a distributed way. You could not say, okay, we have this one supercomputing center, or we have this one, not even our university. I mean, we had some like 4 or 5 faculty in bioinformatics at one time. Yeah, but if you look at the country, we had there were 50 bioinformatics faculty, and why ignore all the others? So it was from the beginning a federal network. It was a network with many branches, and this was the idea. Because, for example, all the medical stuff in Bielefeld until recently didn't have a medical school, so we never were really into medical data. Yeah, we had plant data, we had microbe data. No medicine. Yeah. Not even any other red biotechnology like mice or something. So simply not there. Yeah, but then we go to Heidelberg and they have big hospitals and so on, Embl, and so there was always other people that had their expertise. And then this was the idea behind this network, that we should put all of Germany into collaboration. And of course, try to avoid redundancies, that's also clear. But for the, in general, try that everybody be very open to that everybody can contribute. And what came out is this network. The infrastructure has essentially four parts. It has a tools part. This is a bit like this BBServe that you have your tools, which at that time were more workflows than individual algorithms. We have a training component that's quite big. So I think in the best years, just before Corona pandemic, we did about 100 training courses per year in all these areas. We had the cloud. This comes to your question. Do we also provide the compute services? Initially not. The initial, I mean, this is how you talk to politics. No, everything is very cheap. We just take the scientists that are there anyway. We add some coordination structure, and then they talk better to each other, but it costs nothing, not much, a bit of coordination. Now, this was the beginning. And then at some point, those scientists, after they were coordinated, all together, they were shouting, said, yeah, great that we are now talking to each other, but we need infrastructure, we need hardware, we need the metal, we need the... And then at some point, again, with clever talking to politicians and so on, we got a side branch that's the Denby cloud, so the cloud infrastructure for this. So initially it was only talking, and then suddenly it was really computing. And this was very successful and also very important, that we could really not only provide the service in theory, but also in practice. And another thing is what about industry? I mean, this is a difficult situation, at least in Germany, where the government spending is not allowed to go into industry. So we had all this, tools, training, cloud. Okay, the tools, industry can download the tools if the copyright notice allows, they can download and do everything themselves, okay. Training, they can send their people to our courses. Sometimes they have to pay a higher registration fee than academia, but they can come. But the cloud was from the beginning closed shop. So industry people were not allowed to I mean, the cloud has a very, it's here. for academia in Germany. So you cannot compute there unless you have a collaboration,
Yeah, I know.
and industry cannot. So this was a condition, I mean, well, of course, in the end, if the whole world computes there, it would be a problem indeed. But it was clearly marked from the politicians who said, okay, this is a centralized service for our academics, and that's it. So for me, it was never a problem. Also in collaboration with non-Germans, we did use it. So we have accounts that are for non-German people, but there always has to be a German PI who says, I approve it, and this is my project, or I'm. So this, one can argue whether it's useful or not. I mean, later I will talk about the European Open Science Cloud that you probably also have heard, that is also connected to Elixir. I mean, we are somehow working that this cloud is part of that, and then we say, okay, we allow our cloud also for other users, but then we can also compute on the European cloud in other countries, so that this is a give and take. But so far at the moment, this is still, for academia in Germany, is still quite strictly regulated. Okay, but that was an important point, that we, in the second step only, otherwise probably the whole network would never have been established if because the cloud, I think in the best times it was like 20 million euros per year that went into this cloud. I guess I have been, this I can skip anyway. Here's the slide about the cloud. So the cloud is also a distributed cloud. Yeah. So it's not a single place. So the coordination is at Bielefeld. Oh, by the way, this is Germany. Bielefeld is here. Nobody knows Bielefeld. You don't need to know it. But you know that maybe Cologne is here, Hamburg is here, Munich is here, and Berlin is there. And we are somewhere. Basel is here. Somebody wants to go there. Heidelberg. We are good to Heidelberg. So anyway, it's not one of the major cities or anything, but we have a university that's quite specialized, as you said, it's interdisciplinary research. We're also heading the Center for Advanced Study that is has a good tradition here. So so the coordination of the network and also of the cloud is here, but the Berlin, Gießen, Heidelberg, Tübingen, Freiburg. So these are all branches of the cloud that have some specialty. So as I said, Heidelberg, the three, also Tübingen, they are very much on human data, genome data, also beyond genome, like hospital data. Freiburg is essentially offering Galaxy services for everybody, while Charité, also Berlin, Bielefeld, Gießen, we are mostly doing virtual machines and graphics clusters, offering for the users. Graphics clusters, obviously for use. And these numbers are of course outdated because we are renewing constantly, but and it's a compute and storage cloud. It's not archive. I mean, that's another issue that I would also like to address. Archive, really put for eternity, let's say 20 years somewhere, and just keep it there, because that was the original idea of this BBServ. Yeah, archive the old works. That's not in this cloud, but storage, yes. So if you have some, well, terabytes of data, it's no problem. Just put it there. Have a project. The project has to be renewed every 6 months. So in that sense, you have to still be alive. But if you every 6 months you say, yeah, I'm still alive, I still work on this project, then you can store your at least terabytes, if not petabytes of data free of charge when you're in German academia. And compute on several thousand cores. GPU clusters are I think, the most growing part at the moment. And also you have also high memory machines if you want to do really big computations, like genome assembly or something like that.
How a German researcher applies to use it.
How? Oh, we can play it through later.
Okay.
It's super simple. Actually, my son did it last week. And then let me read from the quote from the WhatsApp message that he sent. He said, okay, now I will, It's honest. It's quite funny because he's a PhD student in biostatistics now. And I said, why don't you try it out? And he said, should I? And then he said on Tuesday last week at 14:06, he said, now I'm writing a little project proposal for this. And the project proposal is 2 sentences at 2 o'clock. And at 4, he said, everything has worked. Everything is done. So 2 hours. And then I said, great. And then at 5, yet another hour later, he says, finally something that works at the first try. So he was super happy. And of course, that makes me happy as a father and as somebody responsible for this. So if you have a project idea and you have this, this included the PI approval because it's I can say it takes not long. So essentially you set up a project. There's a web form, blah blah blah. You say what you want and you say, okay, I have a PI. The PI must be somehow approved as an academic PI in Germany.
Sure.
So. But that will be, there's a governance team that has somehow lists of PIs, or they will check this. So my son would, as a PhD student, would write this proposal, would say, here's the webpage of the PI and the email address. Then they would verify that this person exists. However, I mean, in that case, it's at the same university, so it was easy to verify. Otherwise, it might be a bit more difficult, but in the worst case, they call some institute and say, do you have that guy? But usually they do it on the place on reference. So and then that person will get an email, say, okay, get an Elixir, it's life science account. So Elixir uses this authorization, identification system called life science account. So if you don't have a life science account, you first have to get that. And based on that, you can then approve the project. And then later, 1 email later, you have the project. So it's, as I said, 3 hours and you're done.
And
during the week.
Do you manage the different use cases? Because as far as I visited one some before pandemic, I visited Heidelberg. Your cloud infrastructure. There was a meeting of Elixir at the time, and I visited them. And as far as I understood, they were kind of open stack infrastructure.
That's right.
And it was not clear for me how they manage the resources because you may have people that just want to use some kind of virtual machines. There are guys that just want to store. Okay, I believe that you can just provide object storage or something like that.
Right.
But the detail that is not clear for me is how you manage the use case of virtual machines, intensive GPU work, and for instance, traditional high performance computing that you may just want to launch a Slurm job that you want to run a few parallel tasks. So how do you manage those different kind of workloads? Because
I mean, when you write that proposal, you say, okay, 2-3 sentences, what you want to do. Then you have this table, say, okay, I want virtual machines with this and this. I want GPU access up to, I don't know, 50 GPUs or 100 or whatever. And this is this. And then comes a real human, so we have 2 or 3 of the governance people that look at this, and then they will assign you to the physical resources. So there's a human looking at it. So they say, okay, for the GPUs, I think GPUs are only in Bielefeld and Gießen. So for that, it could be that they then assign you on 2 different places. They say, okay, do all the virtual machines in Berlin, but for the GPUs, you
the centers or the data centers are specialized in some kind of workload. Okay.
Yes. And the governance people know, and they also have access to the current workload, and then on some dashboard, exactly, and then they will assign you to one or the other.
Okay, got it.
That's so. This is actually to one of my students. It has also happened that at some point he was repositioned. I mean, the good thing is that at least the OpenStack installations look almost identical.
And they can
So and when whatever Gießen is somehow suddenly there's lots of demand in Gießen, then they contact you and they say, okay, we see that Gießen is running at the limit. So how about we transfer your project to Charité? And then it made,
But
you can agree on that.
yeah, but then of course, computer science that people, but these the guys with whom I work, they can easily move to work with OpenStack even through automation tools, etc., etc. But what are your experience with non-computer scientists? So
Oh, difficult but possible because let's see.
They must have people that are able to do that, right? To their teams.
Well, first of all, we have the training, we have the user
Okay.
user meetings and so on. So I think the keyword here is not very readable, but simple VM. So we have one option, and also my son used it, that is called simple VM. So it's an OpenStack installation
Okay.
with an extra form where you can say, okay, I want the following software, like I want
Yeah.
an R package. I want so you can from a standard I want a Java compiler. I want this,
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
You click. You press and then everything is pre-installed.
Yeah,
And then you log in like in a shell. Of course, you need to do SSH or something like
Yeah.
that. So if you are not able to do that, then you're probably
yeah, sure.
a problem. I mean, currently, that's not yet on the slide. We're currently developing something that we call Clown.
Yeah.
Cloud-based virtual machine or something. And that there the idea is that you even have everything in a graphical user interface. You don't even need to know how to do SSH.
Okay.
Although SSH
It's
should be doable for.
sure. Okay.
So, but that's the idea.
Yeah,
So we have this selection of also databases, like because we're talking to bioinformaticians, we also have databases that then we talked about S3 storage that will then be put in a storage container close to your CPUs. Yeah, because somebody might really get into trouble if they all the time have a very fast virtual machine, but always it goes to NCBI and back.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. And then we say, okay, if you want those databases, then because we have mirrors of the databases at all these places.
Okay.
Yeah, and then we make sure that there's a quick connection to the database that you want. Not all databases of the planet, but the relevant
The
ones.
most used, yeah.
So this is so the people here really have 20 years of experience with cloud computing, and that's a good thing. And they're always open to, I mean, that's why we do these user meetings and so on, also to get feedback of that type and say, but how about that, change the installation here and there. And so, I mean, I'm not really the specialist for this.
Yeah,
what I said now is everything I know.
Yeah.
But I guess you will find interesting people to talk to if you go to those meetings.
Yeah, great.
Okay, let me proceed. Okay, then I said this already, we are part of, we are Elixir Germany. So because we are distributed anyway, I mean, you might know the Swiss model, which is also a very distributed way. So the network, I mean, here is only one dot in the middle of Germany, but in fact, it's exactly this network of 25 or so partners that form Elixir Germany. And everybody has the status that all the tools that are registered as tools of our Denby network are also at the same time Elixir tools, and then can be accessed like the others. And we are participating in here 21. I think this number is old. No, it's 24. 104 services, 29 training courses in 2022. This is now going up because this was still pandemic a little bit. But Elixir, as I guess you know. Okay, now comes a bit of a cut, because at some point we had all these things. We had this network, we had activities here, we had projects here, and so on. And this was in different departments of the university. Some in biology, some in computer science, some we have a center for biotechnology. Some was there, so it was a bit difficult to get everybody together. And then we founded in 2019 this Bielefeld Institute for Bioinformatics Infrastructure, short BBI, and there we try to reorganize the whole business. So let me start from the right. First thing, and I think this is also important. We have a graduate school in that. So we're a PhD school with own PhD positions, but you can also, but most of the people are affiliated. So they have their PhD position here and there in the university or even outside the university. We have people from plant research institutes, we have students from data science institutes, from ISAS is integrative bioinformatics institutes outside the university, even in different cities. And they enroll at our graduate school because they say this is a training environment that we really enjoy. And then we have seminars online every week, and we have retreats and such things, like 2-3 times a year, workshops where they present their projects. And we had initially 4 positions from the university as a nucleus. And in the best times we had 14, now 18, but some have graduated. So in total 18, so 14 students that joined the school simply because of the attractive program. So that was, and I find this very interesting because I keep saying that this is the academic foundation of the whole institute. I mean, I think even infrastructure institutes should have an academic foundation. They should work as a science on how to provide infrastructures or use cases, how to use infrastructures and how to improve it or say what's good or what's not so good. So all this is happening in the graduate school. And then we have the 2 topics. I always said that microbial genome research is the main focus in Bielefeld in the biology department. That's why we have a department for microbial analyses and services that essentially covers all our services. Then we have the cloud computing department where this cloud is being maintained and developed further. And then we have something that connects somehow to the graduate school, although here we are still, we're not able to hire somebody who's doing this with his full heart, but that's called service science in the life sciences. So what is service science? You have to analyze that term because it's not so easy. It's service science. It's the science how to provide services. Yeah, so go to the meta level and then say, okay, I mean, very stupidly said, is it better to have a red button on the left or a green button on the right? Yeah, I mean, that could be service science, how to design a web page. Yeah, but it could also be, where we're more interested, how to connect interfaces to compute infrastructures, the questions that we were discussing. Yeah, how many staff do you need? Do you need to look at that? Can you do AI? Or you just let it run until the machine collapses? Yeah, all this is service science. And there, I mean, we have this department provided, but we are, well, it's not easy to find somebody who has already worked and published on that and then come here and do this. But that is the structure of the institute, where we thought we have to have some people, not so many maybe, that work on this meta level, then the ones that really do the service work, and then the graduate school that provides new services or develops further or produces use cases. So this was the idea of this institute. Was also then struck a little bit by the pandemic, so we could not do everything we wanted, but it's still existing and growing. So we are now, after 5 years, we have to do a renewal, and after the renewal it might even look a bit bigger. That will happen later this year. Okay, and it's not written here, but one of the main ideas behind forming such an institute and with a name is also that we can write grant proposals all together from the same institution, the same address. And I guess this is also an old scheme that we see over and over. So now we have biologists, computer scientists, data scientists, and all these people together in one institute, and then we say, okay, we want to start a big consortium in this or this direction. And this brings me to the next slide, where there was a big call for national research data infrastructures in Germany, and we were quite successful in that. And now we come also a little bit in the direction of the end of my talk, because I say there's no life science or bioinformatics anymore. Yeah? These are national research data infrastructure. So just for different topics, but with one big umbrella infrastructure level. And we were quite successful applying for projects in this. So we are here, the names all very cryptic, where we were successful in biodiversity. We are providing some of our infrastructures for the biodiversity research, for microbiota research, that's obvious because this is also our specialty, agro research, so everything that has to do with farming, plant research, and what I also think is not irrelevant is there's also a project called BASE for NFDI. So BASE is base services. So they offer base services, basic services like cloud computing, like data, whatever, data management, and so on. And there we are responsible for the cloud setups.
Okay. Have you provided services to medical data?
No. I mean, mostly because, as I said, we are part of this big cloud, and the big cloud has Heidelberg Tübingen in it, and they are the specialists for medical data. We are a little bit, I mean, we have healthcare data and medical data, or I mean, if you mean healthcare data, a little bit, which is more the data that hospitals collect, and then you can do data mining, how much, how much costs a patient with these and these symptoms, or maybe also what is the life expectation, etc. So this we have done, but we have not looked, for example, at genetic, like cancer data and such things. That's just, in individual projects, yes, but not at this infrastructure level, because there are other places in Germany that are better set up for this.
I'm asking that because here, first of all, we've been discussing that, namely within Biodata, the Elixir effort here, and there are some issues with the ethical commission.
Yeah, exactly. And let's say Heidelberg Hospital has good experience with that, and we don't. That's why we are happy to. And we also have some certification for our cloud, that we have some management rules that we fulfill, so we can use up to some level sensitive data, but not as much as would be necessary when you have patient data.
Thanks.
Okay, then this is also what I already said, that this network was now put on a permanent basis under the umbrella of this research center in Jülich. But it is also, they have this branch at Bielefeld, and this was last year set up. So here's the new team that are providing this from Bielefeld University. And we are, again, we offer DBServe is still existing, the thing I started with. It's still there with all the old tools, and we also add new tools here and there. We offer the Demi Cloud for Bielefeld. Cloud, here we see what I mentioned. This is a really dummy approach to the cloud that is in the developer. It's a PhD student of mine. He's working on that. Okay. So we have use cases, but we have not published it. So it's in the making. And again, our main tools are for metagenomics, pangenomics, multiomics, polyomics, all this stuff. So these are the, I mean, he is a faculty and I'm a faculty, and the rest are mostly, here's the clown, so PhD student, postdoc. So the main of the infrastructure work is done by postdocs, because it's not really so good for qualification and writing a thesis about doing services. It's difficult. So that's why I try to have postdocs, but when there's something ready to be developed, like this cloud access, then I have a young student who's okay. Yeah, I guess I skipped this. This is just one of the services that, so we have different algorithms that came from my main work as like for pangenomics. So find a pangenomic core of several, see how a pangenome grows as you add genomes, search in a pangenomic graph data structure. Or here, look at this. Last Thursday, Daniel. So we use splits tree to visualize our phylogenetic relationships. All that for pangenomes. So it's quite nice things. These are all published methods in real algorithmic bioinformatics research. But now the idea in this project here is to put them all together into one toolkit where you can upload your data, then do some analysis here, say, okay, if I exclude that part of data, how does the figure change, and so on. So this is what we do in the infrastructure side, but it's ongoing. And the last thing, but I will mostly skip this, is like this national research data infrastructure. I mean, Germany is stupid. So we have the Science Foundation and we have the Ministry for Science. Yeah? And whenever one comes up with a great and successful initiative, the other has to copy it. And this happened here. So the national infrastructure, this one was by the National Science Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it worked quite well. These projects are all running. It started 2021, so 3 years ago, and then comes the ministry and says, we have to do the same. And now they say we need, and they call it data competence center, but it's so similar. I cannot really tell the difference. I even quoted from what it's, but you don't need to read. So, but of course we have to participate. Yeah, you cannot say no. Yeah, so we proposed and got funding for the German Competence Center Cloud Technologies for Data Management and Processing. Sounds very similar to the other things, but yeah, and then there again with the same partners. I mean, you see Cancer Research Center, EMBL, University Heidelberg, Tübingen, Freiburg, Gießen, Bielefeld, and well, essentially Berlin, and coordinated by Bielefeld. So it's just a copy of the thing we already had, but we got it funded, so now we have to see how to get everything organized. Yeah, and with this, just one final slide. I mean, this is my initial slide. But I'm not. No, okay. I should say one more word about the competence center, because they are not. There's no life science anymore. Maybe that is the only difference to the other one. The other one was always topical. We have one for microbiota, we have one for biodiversity, we have one for plant research, and so on. Here it's just cloud technologies for data management and processing. So I think the development is now going in the direction that we provide these compute services, but we define more what is the type of compute that the users want, and not what is the branch of science, for example. Yeah, and that is what is currently, at least in our university, is the term coined data intense research. So it's no longer if it's bio data or it's physics data or if it's maybe geography data, it's data intense research. I mean, everybody talks about deep learning and big training databases, and of course this goes in this direction.
Okay.
Yeah, and that is what I think that currently the activities that we started with this little bioinformatics server are now going in the direction beyond life sciences. And I told Susanna earlier that now I have a historian in our university who approached me and said, I tried to digitize the whole medieval ages. Can I use your cloud? And I said, well, technically yes, but is it life sciences? Yeah, but they have similar needs. I mean, not everybody. Some physicists, they just want to do number crunching. They need totally different. They need parallel processing in some very standardized way. But this type of computing that is quite flexible, that we are now have 20 years or so of experience in bioinformatics, can be used elsewhere. And I think we should be very open to that and collaborate. Because why set up so many infrastructures next to each other if it's for the same type of computation? Then better have one with a very professional, good governance, and then be open to whoever needs that. But of course, the funding, we have to see. Best is national funding. We are quite lucky at the moment with this, and I hope this will continue. Yeah, and this is the end of my talk. Thank you for your attention. And
Thanks.
I think if we have time, I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty long.